Thank you for joining us today, and welcome Richard Brewin.
Thank
Richard
you for having
is
me.
a mentor, a coach, an accountant, and has helped many hundreds of different accountants with different challenges over the years. Richard, do you want to maybe give us a little bit of your backstory, just for people who don't know who you are?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for having me, Jim. Yeah, I'm Richard Brewin. I'm a chartered accountant, came into the profession in 1981. Never had any great ambition to be an accountant. I sort of found my way in because nobody else would give me a job. And here I am 41 years later. So I've been at the sharp end of the profession, I guess, throughout that time, trained and qualified with a national firm, reached partner level with national and region firms. And then in 1993, we set up the first of our own firms, which we then did between then and 2008 in various forms, building firms and selling those firms. I then got into working with accountants around the world, originally on marketing, how to get new clients, but very quickly worked out that actually that isn't most accountants' problems. In fact, getting new clients tends to add to the problem. So more and more of the work became around, first of all, the firms, fixing the firms, but then increasingly fixing the accountants themselves and getting them in the right sort of mindset and approach. And that's essentially what we've done ever since. So we work with owner-managed firms of accountants, people who can sort of change tomorrow if they want to, working on their mindset, on the leadership, and then on the structures of the firms and the system of the processes and the growth and the challenges that come with growth. So it's great fun. Absolutely love doing it.
Brilliant. No, and it's something that I think over recent times has become, I don't want to call it fashionable, but it's become more accepted and more desirable for people to kind of get a coach, to work with somebody, to just challenge them, to make sure that they're thinking about the right things at the right times. And so have you noticed a greater acceptance of what you do over recent times, or has it always been pretty much, open arms?
No, sadly, it's not always been open arms. I think it comes with the fact that more and more people, both accountants and in the wider business community, are realizing that they need to lift their heads up and look around. The traditional solution for any business has been to work harder, roll your sleeves up, work harder, crack on with it. It's a historical thing, really, isn't it? And I think people have realized that all that does is drive you into the ground quicker. And so, this concept of working on the business rather than in it is something that has grown. And I think once people start doing that and start looking around and start having conversations, you start to realize the value that comes with those conversations. It's something that we've done since I think about the mid to late 90s was when we first got what you would call a coach into the business, but at that time it was just somebody else whose advice we valued, and I think people are gradually realizing that there's something in this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, before I joined Iris, I was doing a bit of consulting, and I had quite a few coaching clients as well, and I always found I learned as much as they did, actually, because I worked with people in different industries. I know obviously you focus on accountants, but I think being able to deal with different people and different challenges at different businesses, it's good for the coach as well. I mean, you can kind of aggregate that knowledge and you can take it on to the next person and so on. Have you found the challenges are common, or do you have challenges that are more common in your clients?
Most challenges are common. We're all different people, so we can all have unique situations, but generally the things that hold us back tend to be the same things. It took me a while to work out what I was. Am I a consultant? Am I a coach? Am I a mentor? Am I a facilitator? What's the difference between them? I love being a coach because to me that's how you help people to get the best out of themselves. And I think mentoring builds from that. In my mind, a mentor is just an older coach, someone who's just got a few more grey hairs and maybe a bit more life experience. But I'm not one for telling people how to run their firms. In fact, I'm very much opposed to that. What I want people to do, especially accountants, is to understand that they can run their firms their way, which is why so much of this is around mindset, self-belief, particularly in accountants. Self-belief is a huge issue. I think as a profession, we almost train it out of ourselves, because we're so focused on being risk aware and and being cautious and being prudent and what have you. And they're not particularly great skills if you're looking to build your own business. So getting accountants to believe that it's okay to do things your way, and then helping them to understand what their way is, and then bringing the conversations about how to do that. But I get quite frustrated actually these days that a lot of people are telling accountants what they can and can't do, and what they should be doing and shouldn't be doing. And I don't think it's that sort of world. I think you can do whatever you want to do. You take the consequences of that. If you back yourself on the wrong route, well, you're the one who's going to suffer. But that's how life is in general. Why not do that in business?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as an industry, you're right. I think it's educated out of accountants. The willingness or the desire to take risk is something that I think has people rock back in their chair a little bit. So I think the mindset thing is really interesting. When you're talking about the challenges that accountants face within the business, I think one of the things that and kind of not prescribing an outcome for people, but one of the things that is talked about a lot now is the real value of the core compliance work. And I think that there's one school of thought which says that will never go away. It's always going to be required, and there will always be value attached to having a qualified accountant to do all of those things. And there's another school of thought which says it's being commoditized, and we need to automate as much of it as we can as accountants. Clearly we've got to kind of put our stamp on it, and we've got to make sure that we agree with what is being calculated and submitted. However, if we automate that using the tech that's available to us, can we free our time up to do other things? Do you have a view based on your experiences of where the industry is and where it's likely to head in that context?
Yeah, I think, it's going to sound a typical accountant answer, but I sort of agree with both, because it has been our profession for 500 years. It's what we've done. We've taken clients' incomplete records and we've turned them into compliant returns. And it's always worked as a business model. The downside has been that if ever you wanted to do anything more than that with your clients, then there simply was no longer the time or the money to do it, because it took so long to convert the data. Now, of course, we can do that pretty much at the touch of a button. So that has freed up this opportunity to do a lot more. And all of a sudden we can sit down and talk to clients about real-time data, and that makes a massive difference if that's what you want to do. I think the real beauty of compliance is that first of all, it's still the number one reason why people choose accountants. So why close your door on the number one marketing tool? But also it builds trust, and if you're going to do anything more with clients, if you're going to deliver value-added services, if you're going to get into coaching, to advisory with clients, then trust is a key component of that. And if you're sorting out their data and if you're sorting out their compliance, then you build trust. So I think it's actually, I certainly don't buy into this compliance is dead routine. I think that there's more than ever. I think you've got to be really efficient at it if you're going to make any money at it. But personally, I would always have it in a firm, because I think it's just a gateway to more value-added services.
No, I'm in the same camp as you are on that one. In terms of how to differentiate yourself in a world where arguably, not arguably, there is more tech available than ever. Things are being automated, and things are becoming less. There's less human interaction than maybe there once was. How can firms differentiate themselves in that world where the core compliance work is becoming commoditized, and they're less in human contact with the clients?
I think this is where I see the opportunity now lying, because there's this view that all accountants are the same, in the same way that all banks are the same and all the rest of it. And whilst we will know on a firm by firm basis that isn't the case, You're probably like me, Jim. You'll have looked at thousands of accountants' websites over the years, and when you do that, you realise actually we say the same things.
Yeah.
We advertise the same services. We all say we're proactive. We all say we'll help you grow your business. Whether we do that or not is another matter, but you can certainly fully understand this view that all accountants are the same. And of course, once we're all using the same software, that the danger is that we become even more the same, because we're all taking the same. We're all using Xero. We're all using Dex. We're all using whatever it may be. The one thing that is unique in every firm is are the leaders of that firm and their personality and their values and their culture, the things that they want to achieve. And I think that's because tech frees up the human time in a firm. It gives us that opportunity to be more human. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that nobody else can copy. And I think particularly, since the experiences that everyone's had over the last couple of years or so, where clients, I think, are looking for the more human side as well now. They want an accountant who is on their side, who understands them, who gets them, who's there for them. And so I think to build a human face to a tech-based office is quite a natural way to go. I always use the example of a restaurant where you've almost got your two teams. You've got your kitchen-based team, who are the technical team, very systemized, very processed. They are the production unit, if you like, and they're the ones who are determining the quality and the range of product and all the rest of it. But then you've got your front of house team, who've got all the people skills and who make people feel welcome and make them, raise that experience. That's what I look for in an accounting firm. That sort of combination of the two. So do
they need to be different roles, or does, like, kind of taking the analogy, you've got two separate roles, two separate teams, front of house and kind of the technical side. Do you see that in smaller firms that you almost need to be both things?
Yeah, I think it's hard to be both things.
Yeah.
I think there is a middle ground, but I've always argued that there are almost sort of two sorts of accountant. That there's the accountant who loves the technical side of the job, the technical knowledge, the checklist, the systems, the processes. Yeah. And then you've got the accountant who is in it primarily because they want to get involved in other people's businesses and talk to clients and get involved with clients. In our businesses, my wife has always been my business partner. She's an accountant, and we are those two sides of accountants. So from a business point of view, it's a perfect blend, because our systems and processes, technical delivery have always been driven by her side of the firm, and then I've taken that data and sat down in front of the client and done something with it. Right. And I think I think there are people who can do both, but I think you need increasingly to have those two different skill sets within a firm. You maybe only need one person in each camp. It's about having someone who has the focus on that side. Yeah. And it probably, to some extent, that mix of skills will then determine how you mix the services that you deliver. Yeah. But I think you've certainly got to have an awareness of both sides. We need to be technically competent, technically efficient, but we need to be people who clients are going to engage with. Unless you're going for you can do models that meet either side. So you could have a 100% online firm, for instance, and that's all about the system and process side. You could have a boutique firm that dumps compliance and just does the advisory. I think for most accountants, we want to be in that middle ground. We want to do both. And therefore, you've got to think about how you're going to achieve each side of it within the single firm. Yeah.
Okay. No, you mentioned as well, I'd be interested to explore how you see this philosophy connecting to how you market the firm, how you present the firm outward to the world. So, that kind of personal, more intimate conversation with clients, or more human touch, and the mechanical compliance or the mechanical accounting work that sits in the back office. How do you take advantage of that when you go out from a marketing point of view to talk to prospective customers, and how do you publish that on the website? How do you get that message across?
I think the key thing here is to think very carefully about what sort of firm you want to be, and then to make sure that your brand, your marketing, the world are perceiving you in the right way, because there is a bit of a fear that you can't build a firm around a personality. If I make my firm all about me, I impact my capital value. If I want to step out of it, people won't buy it because I'm no longer there. I don't buy into that. I think it's much more about having a firm that reflects you. So reflects, in our case, reflects my beliefs, my values, the sort of people that we want to be working with. If I get that right in the brand, in the website, in our culture, in our office, in everything around the firm, so that people are experiencing the same sort of interaction, then you're going to attract the right sort of clients, and you're going to attract the right sort of team members, and you're going to put off those who don't get you, which is equally as fine. So I think there's a lot of work needed in firms to think very carefully about how the outside world is actually seeing them, and are they seeing the right view? In its simplest term, it's back to this issue about the website, and is that website actually a true reflection of who we want to be? You can then, your delivery is then a matter of, is a training and development side. We fail to invest enough in training in accounting firms. We do the CPD, but we don't do enough in terms of training our people to be able to deliver the style of service as much as anything else that we want to deliver. So that the call it the soft skills training. I don't particularly like the term, but you'll know what I mean. We don't do enough of that, and we don't create the space for our team to grow in those areas either. So many accountants will say, well, my team can't, I'm the only one who can see clients. My team can't do this sort of work. My team can't cope. Well, they've never been given the opportunity. They've never been given the development opportunities to actually step up and do that. And increasingly, when you look at the younger people coming into the accounting profession, they want to be doing this sort of stuff. They want to do things that where they can take responsibility, where they're challenged, where they're constantly learning. And I think that as a profession, we're not yet engaging quick enough on that side of how things are changing. The systems and the processes will deliver an awful lot of this. We don't need people sitting at desks putting numbers together anymore, putting reports together anymore. We can free up those people to focus on our clients. Whether it be client management, client service delivery, whatever it may be. But all of a sudden, we've got teams who can do more interesting stuff.
No, it's a fact. This is something that really fascinates me, actually, because in a lot of other industries, there are there are cottage industries within industries that specialize on experience design, on making sure that you've got you're engineering your business to an experience that you want to create for the client or for the customer, depending on the industry. What's your view on designing the right experience? Is that something that you would be in favor of? So kind of, sit down, pen and paper, or, however you want to do it, sit down as a team, design the experience you want to take a customer through or client through, and then engineer the business, buy the tech in to support that, train the people to support that, and kind of base everything around the experience. Is that something that you would endorse? And if so, what are your views?
Totally. I think it's massively important. We are at a fundamental changing point for the profession as a whole, and I can't recall one before. Certainly in the 40 odd years I've been involved, and I think my guess is for the 500 years before that, because we haven't needed to. We've had this recurring income model. We'll just sit down and do the client's compliance every year, and the client will come back every year, and no one's had to think of anything different. Some accountants have then take an opportunity to build the client relationship beyond that, but fundamentally it's not required. Now it is, because not because compliance is dead, but certainly because compliance is going to be under increasing pressure from a profit center point of view. But actually, so many more people in the profession want to do something different, haven't had the opportunity because of time, but now have that opportunity. And I think so, therefore, to sit down and look at your firm and go, what is it we're trying to actually do here? We've never had to think about that before. We've just sat down and done accounts. Now we need to think, what are we going to do? What do we want to offer? You walk into an accounting firm 40 years ago, and you would have two groups of people. You'd have accountants, and then you'd have the admin people, the receptionists, the secretaries. You walk into an accounting firm 5 years ago, you'd still see that same thing. Now, you don't walk into an engineering firm and just see engineers and a receptionist. They have a mix of skills. They have a marketing person, they have a tech person, and a development, whatever it may be. So accounting firms need to look at what are we trying to achieve here? What skills do we need? What skills have we got? And how do we then build from that? But this idea of we just need as many, every time you want to grow, get another accountant and get more chargeable hours out. It doesn't work anymore, and it's not what the marketplace wants.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's been. I actually think there's a post-pandemic. I think there's a once in a generation opportunity, because I think there's been a bit of a reset in what small business owners look to an accountant for, because I think it became quite, as we approached the pandemic, it was very mechanical, very mundane. There was very little interaction. I think the panic button was pressed for an awful lot of small businesses when we first went into that. And I was running my own small businesses at the time, and the first call I put in was to my accountant. What do I do? How do I show things up? What grants are available? All of those conversations. And the accountants became a bit of a rescuer for a lot of people. So there's been a reset in terms of the accountant can actually do more than just file compliance. The accountant can guide me, can give me advice, can, rather than looking at after the fact reporting, they can start looking forward into my cash flow, into my challenges, into my issues, and kind of give me some counsel and give me some advice. I think there's a real opportunity for people to take that, think about how you apply that to the business, design the experience around it, and then sort of live into it. So I think that's fascinating as a concept. From a tech point of view, Richard, what's your philosophy on the tech that would support all of this? Do you have views on how aggressively people should adopt tech, how they should build their business around tech? Should it just be an enabler? What's your kind of your 50,000-foot view on the technology that's available?
I see it as an enabler, but as a fundamental one, because we need to be as efficient as possible, not just in the core product, the compliance, if you like, but if we're going to deliver services to our clients, we live in a world where people need instant information, where people want things to happen now, and that's what tech will enable us to do. I think that one of the things that we saw right at the start of the lockdowns, on that first weekend when the government, I think on Sunday night, said, "Okay, right, you're not going into work tomorrow morning," all of a sudden, firms were making decisions about tech and implementing things that they've been maybe talking about for 12 months, 18 months, 2 years before. All of a sudden, it's right. We need to do this now. We need to get our team kitted up. We need to change how we communicate. And I think a lot of firms learned from that and thought, actually, we don't need to spend 12, 18 months procrastinating about which bit of tech we're going to use. We just do it. Mm-hmm. And that boosted things enormously. What we've seen at the end of the lockdowns, when businesses started coming back out again, was there was this big migration of SMEs, because a lot went, where was my accountant during all of that? Yeah. And they went straight to the people who were going, actually, my accountant was great because they were there for us. And they told us what we needed to know. They saw, So there's this big migration. So all of a sudden firms are going, A, we know we can change, and we know we can change effectively. We know our team can step up. And B, we now understand what our clients want. And we understand. So I think tech links all that together. The challenge with tech is there's so much of it for a start off. So you're standing there looking at the shelves going, which one do I buy? And of course, the moment you buy one, there'll be one out tomorrow that's better. And people can get very distracted by that. My view is, A, buy one. I almost don't care which, but if that's what you need in your firm, go and buy one. And secondly, once you've bought it, make the most out of it. Get your team fully trained on it. Make sure you fully understand what you can do with it. Don't then start thinking, oh, I wish I bought that other one, because you haven't now. You've made a decision. At least say, right, for the next 2 years, we're going to focus on this, and we're going to use this to meet those goals we've set within our own firm. I think that's the key. If just accountants are dreadful at buying the latest bright, shiny thing. It's like, okay, if we're going to, what do we need to do for our clients? What do we need to do for ourselves as a business? Is there a tech solution to that? Because the answer almost certainly will be yes. Right, let's go and buy it. Let's put it in and let's use it for 2 years, and then we'll review, see where we are after that.
And I think it's good advice. And you, as you say, by their very nature, tech companies, as soon as a product lands metaphorically on the shelf, they're already 6 months into the development of the product that will supersede it. Otherwise, they're not worth they're not worth the salt that they're. So I think that's good advice. You've got to back a horse and get on with it. Do you think that from a technology point of view, that the tech is beginning to pull away from the industry as a whole? Because I do get a sense that there are still a lot of late adopters, let's call them, in the industry, people who are resistant of getting on with it, picking a horse and getting on with it. Do you think that the tech will just pull away from the industry and kind of leave these people behind, or what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think that come about 2025, I think we will have completed the transition that the profession is now going through. So I think accounting firms that are around in 2025 will be very, very different to the standard firm that was around 2 years ago or even now. And for that reason, there are, as you'll know, there's lots of people coming out of the profession now. There's lots of people selling up. There's some good firms selling up. It's not just that people have can't do the tech. It's just that they're looking at the future and going, it's not what I fancy. It's not what I want to be. Now's a good time to get out. So at the same time, we are seeing fresh blood coming in. We've got this idea of how they want to service their clients using tech. So I think that transition will complete within a couple of years. I firmly believe that. What that will mean in terms of numbers, you'd expect there to be fewer firms, but I don't think necessarily will be substantially fewer. But the firms that are around will be different. And that's the challenge for the accountants now, to get clients in the marketplace to see that change, to change their perception of the accountant, that the accountant isn't someone who they just talk to about accounts and tax. And the accountant's got to change that perception. And that's where I think tech plays a big part, because we talk about advisory keys, which is a bit of it's an app or a software or something you put in front of a client very, very quickly, and immediately show the client something useful, show them that there's a different sort of conversation to be had here. And that's, firms need to be thinking about how they're going to do that, and how they use their tech and how they train and recruit their people so that they can deliver this different style of being an accountant to their clients. I think we have lots of conversations with fintech companies as well, because there's been a move in the fintech world to, in a sense, listen to the accountant, to go to their customer, the accountant, and say, tell us what more you want. The accountant comes back with a shopping list. The tech companies work on that, go back to the accountant, but it still doesn't shift things forward, because the accountant in the first place hasn't really worked out what they want. So I think there's conversations between fintechs and accountants, which I think we facilitate, that are around, okay, well, the product's good enough. Let's have a conversation about how it's used within your firm, which means that we need a process, first of all, about understanding exactly how you want to use it in your firm. What is it you're trying to achieve as an accounting firm? Where does the software fit within that? Now let's go back to the software company and say, right, this is now what we need.
Right. Okay.
And I think those sorts of conversations I'm seeing happening more increasingly, so that it's not just, you can give, I always use cars as an example. You can give someone the best motor car out there. It's got all of the buttons, all the latest things. It'll drive at 200 miles an hour. But if that's not what the person knows how to drive, it's still going to just do the shopping trip. And therefore they're going to get frustrated that they've overpaid for something for the shopping trip. And we see that a lot in the accounting profession. So understand how you want to drive, understand what your driving style is, understand where you want to go to, then go to the dealership and say, right, this is the sort of car I'm looking for.
So it kind of comes back to the point you made before around, working on the business or designing the experience or the practice that you want to, and then you find the tech that matches up with that. And in a lot of cases, again, back to another point that you made, is you don't need to be paying top dollar. So, I always use, you think about Microsoft Excel and Word, I probably use 10, 15, 20% of the capabilities of those products. So, the fact of the matter is, you don't necessarily need the top end product to do what you've designed for your specific practice or your specific business. So that's fascinating. So you've talked to a lot of accountants, Richard, for a long time. And what would be the most common issue, challenge, or mistake that you see accountants making?
the most common issue is self-belief.
Right.
When you talk to an accountant, they will tell you that it's a lack of time, lack of money, can't get the right people. And these are all very relevant, but it starts with that self-belief, both amongst the leaders in the firm and their team as well. The confidence, the more we work at it, the more we look at it, the more confidence is a big issue. And actually, once you flick that switch, once people start to believe in themselves a bit more, you can fix everything else. But if that mindset isn't right, if that drive and that belief isn't right, then everything else is just too hard.
Yeah.
So you can get, there's almost an acceptance within the profession that people they form their own firms, they start their firms, they grow very well, they reach a point where their growth has outperformed their resources, and they get into this point where they then talk to every other accountant and they go, yeah, that's how it is. You're always going to be short of time. You're always going to be stressed.
Yeah.
You're always going to struggle to find the right people. You're always your clients aren't interested in the added value services and all the rest of it. And it's simply not true. But it's a reflection of where that person's mindset is. And so that holds so many firms back. And increasingly will become the big problem, because in the past, you could still hide behind the fact that, okay, let's just churn out the accounts and tax and we'll still have an okay business. That can't do that going forward. We have to have businesses that engage our clients and excite our teams, and therefore the business leadership needs to be switched on. And it's not a skill. It's just recognizing that the days can be brighter than they are.
So what would be what's the number one, or what's the most common remedy to that? What would be your advice? So if somebody thinks, right, yeah, I can relate to that. That's kind of how I feel, or where I'm at, where my firm's at. What's the best piece of advice that you can give somebody? What have you seen work?
Go back to why you do this in the first place. We get lost on that, and it's a good tip when it comes to them talking to their clients as well. If we sit down and really think, okay, why is it that I go to work every day? And the immediate answer is, well, I've got a mortgage to pay, or the kids to put through school, or whatever it may be. But actually, no, there's a reason why you do what you do. There's a reason why you are the sort of accountant or the sort of accountant that you want it to be. So work out what that is, and use that to then redesign your day and because we lose our priorities. When you look at the to-do list, we end up doing stuff that we simply shouldn't be doing, in all honesty. It's impacted very heavily on the client relationships. We've got a big imbalance. We do so much for nothing. We give away so much stuff.
Yeah.
We overpromise to clients when we know that it's going to be a massive headache for us. And the people who suffer from that are the accountant themselves and the accountant's family and the accountant's team. But generally, the accountant's doing that in the first place because they want to help their clients.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to that. Why do you want to help your clients? Why do you fundamentally do what you want to do? It's classic, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. It's that sort of approach. I think if you get that clear in your mind first, then you will find that you quite naturally start to look at your firm in a different light, because you start to think, actually, why are we messing about with that client? Why are we getting so stressed about this? Why don't we do? But I think you've got to look within yourself first of all and go, okay, what am I about? And sometimes the answer is, do you know what? I'm doing the wrong thing. I shouldn't be an accountant. I should sell up now, and that's okay. That's the right thing to do. But go back into what you're all about and stop looking at every other accountant going, I need to be like him or I need to be like her because they're better than me, because the chances are they're not. But you've just got to sort your own head out first.
That's good advice, Richard. It's been absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure we could go on for another 40 minutes. But if somebody wants to get in touch with you or learn a little bit more about what you do, how can people get in touch?
They can get us on the website, which is progressbb.co.uk, or get me on Richard Brewin on LinkedIn. They'll get me through that as well. So always very, very happy. I'm strange. I love talking to accountants.
Brilliant. Well, you came to the right place. Richard, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for having me, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Have a good day. Bye. Bye.